Hey everyone, thanks for tuning back into my channel. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful evening so far. Or if you're listening to this in the morning, of course, may you have a wonderful rest of your day and may it be started off in a relaxing manner. Today's video, I just wanted to go ahead and read a little bit for you guys, in hopes that you can just listen to this, regardless of what you're doing. If you're getting ready, if you're, doing work, studying, if it's not too, or if it's something that you like to listen to in the background. This video will be basically me reading, and you can get to know some of, or not get to know, but you'll listen to some amazing book sounds. I've always thought that books sound amazing, so those of you that like these book sounds, I hope that you will like this. And then of course I will be reading it to you, just like if I was reading you a bedtime story. So the book in question today is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I'm sure you can tell here we've got Leonardo DiCaprio right here at the very center, Tobey Maguire. You can read the names up here if you'd like, but these are pretty much the main characters that are the characters here are actually from the movie that was made, but there was a book before that, so this is just the one that has the movie art, I believe. I'm not entirely sure what this edition is really. It was handed down to me not too long ago, and I decided that I wanted to go ahead and read it with you guys. And I remember reading this in high school, and so it's been a while, and yeah, so whatever you're doing, just go ahead and sit back, lay back, go ahead and put on some headphones if that's what you're into, and let's go ahead and get started. So on the back here it says, now a major motion picture, The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, stands as a supreme achievement of his career. This exemplary novel of the Jazz Age has been acclaimed by generations of readers. The story of the fabulously wealthy J. Gatsby and his love for the beautiful Daisy Buchanan, of lavish parties on Long Island at a time when the New York Times noted gin was the national drink. And, well, I can't continue that quote, I'm sorry, due to YouTube policies. But after the quote it says, it is an exquisitely crafted tale of America in the 1920s. The Great Gatsby is one of the great classics of the 20th century literature. And then there's a little paragraph here about F. Scott Fitzgerald himself, which says that he was born in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1896, attended Princeton University, and published his first novel, This Side of Paradise, in 1920. That same year he married Zelda Sayer, and the couple divided their time between New York, Paris, and the Riviera, becoming a part of the American expatriate circle that included Gertrude Stein, Ernest Hemingway, and John Dos Passos. Wow, so I didn't know that bit about him. It's pretty cool. He died of a heart attack in 1940 at the age of 44. Wow, very young. While working on The Love of the Last Tycoon for his sharp social insight and breathtaking lyricism. Fitzgerald stands out as one of the most important American writers of the 20th century. Nice. And this is the back right here. And this is our author right there, Mr. F. Scott Fitzgerald. Interesting. I wonder if you can read that. Oh, yes. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm assuming you can. I was just gonna ask, like, I wonder if you can actually read the last novel that he left unfinished, but it seems like you can. It even mentions here that there's a foreword by someone else, so that's pretty cool. F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby. Then wear the gold hat, if that will move her. If you can bounce high, bounce for her too, till she cry, lover, gold-hatted, high-bouncing lover, I must have you. By Thomas Park d'Invilliers. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. d'Invilliers. There it is. Okay. Once again to Zelda. It's nice. Chapter 1. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. He didn't say any more, but we've always been unusually communicative in a reserved way, and I understood that he meant a great deal more than that. In consequence, I'm inclined to reserve all judgment, a habit that has opened up many curious natures to me, and also made me the victim of not a few veteran bores. The abnormal mind is quick to detect and attach itself to this quality when it appears in a normal person. And so it came about that in college I was unjustly accused of being a politician, because I was privy to the secret griefs of wild, unknown men. Most of the confidences were unsought. Frequently I have feigned sleep, preoccupation, or a hostile levity when I realized by some unmistakable sign that an intimate revelation was quivering on the horizon. For the intimate revelations of young men, or at least the terms in which they express them, are usually plagiaristic and marred by obvious oppressions. Reserving judgment is a matter of infinite hope. I am still a little afraid of missing something if I forget that. As my father snobbishly suggested, and I snobbishly repeat, a sense of the fundamental decencies is parceled out unequally at birth, and, after boasting this way of my tolerance, I come to the admission that it has a limit. Conduct may be founded on the hard rock or the wet marshes, but after a certain point, I don't care what it's founded on. When I came back from the East last autumn, I felt that I wanted the world to be in uniform and at a sort of moral attention forever. I wanted no more riotous excursions with privileged glimpses into the human heart. Only Gatsby, the man who gives his name to this book, was exempt from my reaction. Gatsby, who represented everything for which I have an unaffected scorn. If personality is an unbroken series of successful gestures, then there was something gorgeous about him, some heightened sensitivity to the promises of life, as if he were related to one of those intricate machines that register earthquakes 10,000 miles away. This responsiveness had nothing to do with that flabby impressionability which is dignified under the name of the creative temperament. It was an extraordinary gift for hope, a romantic readiness such as I have never found in any other person, and which it is not likely I shall ever find again. No, Gatsby turned out all right in the end. It is what preyed on Gatsby, what foul dust floated in the wake of his dreams that temporarily closed out my interest in the abortive sorrows and short-winded relations of men. My family have been prominent, well-to-do people in the Middle Western city. For 3 generations, the Carraways are something of a clan, and we have a tradition that we're descended from the Dukes of Buccleuch. But the actual founder of my line was my grandfather's brother, who came here in '51, sent a substitute to the Civil War, and started the wholesale hardware business that my father carries on today. I never saw this great uncle, but I'm supposed to look like him, with special reference to the rather hard-boiled painting that hangs in Father's office. I graduated from New Haven in 1915, just a quarter of a century after my father, and a little later I participated in what delayed Teutonic migration known as the Great War. I enjoyed the counter-raid so thoroughly that I came back restless. Instead of being the warm center of the world, the Middle West now seemed like a ragged edge of the universe. So I decided to go east and learn the bond business. Everybody knew I was in the bond business, so I supposed it could support one more single man. All my aunts and uncles talked it over as if they were choosing a prep school for me, and finally said, "Why, yes," with the very grave, hesitant faces. Father agreed to finance me for a year, and after various delays I came east, permanently. I thought in the spring of 22, the practical thing was to find rooms in the city, but it was a warm season and I had just left a country of wide lawns and friendly trees, so when a young man at the office suggested that we take a house together in a commuting town, it sounded like a great idea. He found the house a weather-beaten cardboard bungalow at $80 a month, but at the last minute the firm ordered him to Washington, and I went out to the country alone. I had a dog. At least I had him for a few days until he ran away. And an old Dodge, and a Finnish woman who made my bed and cooked breakfast and muttered Finnish wisdom to herself over the electric stove. It was lonely for a day or so until one morning some man, more recently arrived than I, stopped me on the road. "How do you get to West Egg Village?" he asked helplessly. I told him, and as I walked on I was lonely no longer. I was a guide, a pathfinder, an original settler. He had casually conferred on me the freedom of the neighborhood. And so, with the sunshine and the great bursts of leaves growing on the trees, just as things grow fast in movies, I had the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the summer. There was so much to read, for one thing, and so much fine health to be pulled down out of the young breath-giving air. I bought a dozen volumes on banking and credit and investment securities, and they stood on my shelf in red and gold like new money from the mint, promising to unfold the shining secrets that only Midas and Morgan and Maecenas knew. And I had the high intention of reading many other books besides. I was rather literary in college. One year, I wrote a series of very solemn and obvious editorials for the Yale News. And now I was going to bring back all such things into my life and become again that most limited of all specialists, the well-rounded man. This isn't just an epigram. Life is much more successfully looked at from a single window after all. It was a matter of chance that I should have rented a house in one of the strangest communities in North America. It was on the slender, riotous island which extends itself due east of New York, and where there are, among other national curiosities, two unusual formations of land. 20 miles from the city, a pair of enormous eggs, identical in contour, and separated only by a courtesy bay, jut out into the most domesticated body of salt water in the Western Hemisphere, the great wet barnyard of Long Island Sound. They are not perfect ovals, like the egg in the Columbus story. They are both crushed flat at the contact end, but their physical resemblance must be a source of perpetual confusion to the gulls that fly overhead, to the wingless and more arresting phenomena as their dissimilarity in every particular except shape and size. I lived at West Egg, the less fashionable of the two, though this is a most superficial tack to express the bizarre and not a little sinister contrast between them. My house was at the very tip of the egg, only 50 yards from the Sound, and squeezed between two huge places that rented for 12 or 15,000 a season. The one on my right was a colossal affair by any standard. It was a factual imitation of some Hôtel de Ville in Normandy, with the tower on one side spanking new under a thin beard of raw ivy, and a marble swimming pool. And more than 40 acres of lawn and garden. It was Gatsby's mansion. Or rather, as I didn't know Mr. Gatsby, it was a mansion, inhabited by a gentleman of that name. My own house was an eyesore, but it was a small eyesore, and it had been overlooked, so I had a view of the water, a partial view of my neighbor's lawn, and the consoling proximity of millionaires, all for $80 a month. Across the courtesy bay, the white palaces of the fashionable East Egg glittered along the water, and the history of the summer really begins on the evening I drove over there to have dinner with the Tom Buchanans. Daisy was my second cousin, once removed, and had known Tom in college, and just after the war I'd spent 2 days with them in Chicago. Her husband, among various physical accomplishments, had been one of the most powerful ends that ever played football at New Haven, a national figure in a way. One of those men who reached such an acute limited excellence at 21 that everything afterwards savors of anticlimax. His family were enormously wealthy. Even in college, his freedom with money was a matter for reproach. But now he'd left Chicago and come east in a fashion that rather took your breath away. For instance, he'd brought down a string of polo ponies from Lake Forest. It was hard to realize that a man in my own generations was wealthy enough to do that. Why they came east, I don't know. They had spent a year in France for no particular reason, and then drifted here and there unrestfully wherever people played polo and were rich together. This was a permanent move, said Daisy over the telephone, but I didn't believe it. I had no sight into Daisy's heart, but I felt that Tom would drift on forever seeking, a little wistfully, for the dramatic turbulence of some irrecoverable football game. And so it happened that on a warm, windy evening, I drove over to East Egg to see two old friends whom I scarcely knew at all. Their house was even more elaborate than I expected, a cheerful red and white Georgian colonial mansion overlooking the bay. The lawn started at the beach and ran towards the front door for a quarter of a mile, jumping over sundials and brick walls and burning gardens. Finally, when it reached the house, drifting up on the side in bright vines as though from the momentum of its run. The front was broken by a line of French windows, glowing now with reflected gold and wide open to the warm, windy afternoon. And Tom Buchanan, in riding clothes, was standing with his legs apart on the front porch. You guys enjoyed that. Short read. I just wanted to go ahead and put something out for you guys to relax to. I hope you guys all have a good night, and I'll see you on the next one.